Hey, I voted for your chair. Come on.
You voted for your chair. What if it doesn't fit underneath here? Then it's going to be canned. Hey, have we tried the chair underneath here?
I signed this, I think, didn't I? Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Billy?
signed it.
Bill signed it, so now you just need... Said what? Oh. All right, Bobby. Let's see, where's your agenda? Personnel and finance. All right.
Good, awesome.
There she is. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Personnel Committee to order. And the committee members, roll call. Lori? Mrs. Hefner? Mr. Kraft?
Present.
Mr. Heckman?
Here.
And myself. The first part on the, first of all, anyone from the public would like to speak? Now would be a good time. Come on up.
Hi, up here.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Crystal Mulata. I am from the Nazareth area, and I'm here in regarding to the voting at Kenneth Woods Elementary School. And I have just one question I want to ask you guys. Do the appointees support moving voting away from the schools if there are other buildings that meet all qualifications?
Okay.
You can ask him.
You can ask them. Sure.
Hey, Linda, it's Peg.
All right.
Hi, yes, it's Peg.
Okay.
Okay. I'll
Sorry
put it
about
on
that.
mute
Okay.
so I can listen.
Well, I mean, I'll try to, give you my thoughts on the issue. I am a teacher, and my school has been used as a polling place off and on. My recommendation and what our district has done at those times is had an in-service day that prevents, the interaction of students and voters. So that's one option for you to pursue. But as far as what this body does, our obligation is to confirm the appointments. The decisions as to where the polling places are made by that body.
Correct. So you said with your school, you basically have an Act 80 day. If you were presented another location to have the voting moved to, and it was, it met all of the, it met every criteria that was possible, because you no longer wanted it in the school because of safety issues, or you just felt that it was no longer in today's society, suitable for having it with children in the building, or even for that matter, staff. Would you support moving it?
Well, again, that's up to the board and the people that are involved.
But I get what you're saying. I just want to know your personal opinion on that.
I think the polling place should be where it is most accessible and practicable for the voters to get there.
Regardless of who is there and who else it affects.
Well, again, if there are alternatives that are better, well, then they should be explored.
Okay.
But, again, that's for the elections board to decide, and for you to work with them in order to do that.
Okay.
My only position on this is we don't point people to boards and authorities under a litmus test on how they're going to vote for something. They're an independent authority. When they get on that board, it's their decision. Your turn to ask them these questions are when the authority actually is in place and they have a meeting. Then they will decide whether they want to move the polling place or not. But state law does say that schools are supposed to be used for polling places. They are public places. And I believe your superintendent was in Easton Area School District when he pursued this same path and lost.
That is correct.
and lost. So now, all of a sudden, he shows up where you are, and this is a huge brouhaha. We need to move polling places again. And I'm speaking as a chairman, was past chairman of the Election Commission. It's something that you have to take up with your legislators. It is a public building. You can have an in-service day like we do in Bethlehem and every other school district that sees it's a problem. As far as I'm concerned, and no, I wouldn't support moving it to another building if I were on the commission right now.
Okay, well, with that being said, the laws are very outdated when it comes to voting, in my opinion. And in today's society, for example, there was a shooting today in school in Florida. If this were an election day, that shooting that occurred today, you could not lock down the building.
If this were an election day, you'd have an in-service. Nobody
No.
would be in that building.
Not all schools are like that, though.
Well, they should be. It's a simple fix to your
Then
problem.
what should happen is the new law should make mandatory that on voting day, it is a national holiday. All schools close
Then
their
go to the
doors.
state legislatures and
Well, I
ask them to
have.
make that as a law.
I have,
And
actually.
it was summarily dismissed. So, you know, I'm sorry, it's courtesy of the floor, I'm sorry, we shouldn't be having a discussion here, sorry.
We do appreciate your concern, and we're everybody, I think, in the room here is concerned about the children.
Well, I see what
But
you're
there's
saying,
other
but
things
what-
that they also handle, the election committee, other than just that one issue, so, but.
Well, I'm gonna go back to Easton School District, okay? That school was not handicapped accessible. It was also taking place in the library, where it's centrally located in the building, where you can have people going throughout the hallways. How is that safe for the students? So if I'm a crazy person walking into that building, and I want to do physical harm to someone, granted you can do that on any given day throughout the year.
But that's not the issue here.
The issue is, if
The
you have
issue is
voting
you're
in the
bringing in
building,
Easton, you're bringing in Easton School District in some kind of hypothetical scenario that doesn't pertain to
I'm
your
not
school.
actually, because you
So-
actually, that's present. There was no handicapped accessibility back then. I don't know if there is now.
All
I'm
schools
not-
are ADA accessible now, they have to be by law, so.
Right, but back then, they were not.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs.
It's
Hefner.
okay, because he was out of order.
I-
He's the boss. I'm just confused as to why you're bringing this issue to Personnel Committee meeting. I mean, I hear you're very concerned, but I'm not sure why it's being presented today at this time.
Because the new appointees, I just wanted to, make sure that they're aware of the issue. We will be going to work with, the election board, and hopefully they'll be in support of that situation. But I wanted to get everyone's point of view and standings, and also make this known in public, where you guys stand, because I think the public has a right to know, as of your own personal point of views, you represent, a lot. So I think everyone should know where
Well,
you're coming from.
Lori, I'm
Wait,
sorry.
no, wait,
Where
let me
we
finish.
stand doesn't matter, because they're an independent board who makes that decision. We don't make this decision. It's nothing to do with this board. It's nothing to do with the county executive. They're a quasi-independent board who does that. We can't have our hands on them and give them a litmus test and say, hey, do you agree with everything I agree? Now let's run elections this way so we can win everything. They have to be independent. They have to have a voice. So I can't sit here and ask somebody, will you move a voting place because, just because, they want to move it, when they could have an in-service day and have an easy remedy for it. I can't ask people that. We can't ask people that as a thing.
You might not be able to ask people, but that's not what I'm here asking you, what you would
It doesn't
do.
matter what I say.
And you're simply telling me that, no, you would not support it. And my
I
comment back
wouldn't.
to you would be, is that if you had a child in our school, Kenneth Woods Elementary School, on the day that we had Trooper Kelly, who got shot on Route 33, we all got the phone call stating there's an active shooter. We don't know where he is. They didn't tell us. Okay, forgive me. They didn't say we don't know where he is. There's an active shooter on the loose in your area. We need to lock down all schools. Our school was not able to be locked down completely because of voting. So when me as a parent gets that phone call from the district saying there's an active shooter, my child is in that building, I don't know if he's safe. How would you react to that if it were your kid?
My kid was in school for things like that. I don't know what to tell you. Everybody reacts differently.
Mrs. Hefner.
I just want to get back to what I was saying, is that I hear your point and I hear your concern. And I think for you to poll us each individually at this time might not be the best way to do this. And I'm happy to speak to you, but not during Personnel Committee.
Okay.
So if you, because we have that situation in our school, we were open, and we have a way that we have created it as a safe place that doesn't affect the children. So if you'd like me to talk with you about that privately, I'm happy to do so.
Absolutely, I love that.
Because I hear what your concern is. But again, I think we have business before the
I
committee.
think mostly all the members on the board probably feel the same way. You know,
Yeah, if I could. Procedurally, what you've been hearing is absolutely correct. I mean, we don't have that power.
Right.
We appoint. Having said that, it's not that I don't hear you and your concern, and I'm a parent, even though I don't, believe me, I don't have anybody in elementary school at this point. But the thing is, it is something that I would recommend you do take up with our election board when these people are on. And express you have every right to speak to us, to speak to them. I think what you're hearing is we're not necessarily, even though we're the county council and we appoint, we're not going to end up making those judgments. And there is also law out there, which may or may not be good law, which may or may not be have to address at the state level. I really don't know. But I think you've been heard, and I think, you know, I certainly understand where you're coming from.
Well, you as county council, you appoint people that you know and you feel would be, you know, that would work under your best interest into issues that you support.
Hopefully they're open-minded to listen to things.
So me coming to you and asking you that question,
Sure.
I already have one answer. So, and I'm sure that the rest of you have your own opinions as well. And, you know, like you said, I have no problem meeting independently with whoever to discuss your opinions if you're not comfortable or don't feel that you have the time to do that right now. I understand that at a later time, and I would love to do that.
And then just for your own edification, there is a Court of Common Pleas, County of Northampton against Easton School District in 2007. Judge Freeberg has an opinion that, yes, schools are public property and they should hold elections.
I have that information.
Okay,
Thank you.
so just so you know.
Yeah, I have all that. And I will just mention then, too, is that, you know, the voting was taken out of Alverna? I forget the actual, Alvona, one of the schools, I forget what it is. They moved it for reconstruction in the building. You know, so it's simple to move it, but then they turned around and put it back because the building was done. Why not just move it to that location and leave it there? Why put it back? But I'm just saying that, so you don't have to answer that question. That's just another thing I'm just mentioning. But again, if no one else has anything else to ask me, I am finished.
I have one question. Did you talk to the current election commission?
I have spoken to some people that were on the board. I don't know who actually is all being appointed back, but one person that I spoke to is in very much support and doesn't see why anyone else would be unsupportive. You know, but that, you know, she has, you know, voiced her, you know, opinion on that and actually got very emotional on that conversation. So she was supportive, but she's not the one that's coming back.
I'm just curious. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Cusick.
I just wanted to make one last comment, and I think what's truly unfortunate here is I can remember when I was a student and there were polling places in my schools, that those were actually mini field trips where we got to go on and have a learning experience where we saw the log book and we looked at the old lever machines and voting, and you know, students had a real opportunity.
To learn, it was definitely educational.
I think that an educational opportunity here is also being lost. So that to me is disappointing.
An educational, you know, the teachers are teaching that. They do learn it. You could, you know, theoretically you can, you know, have them do a craft project, build their own polling booth, and teach them that way. There's other ways of introducing it through education. But, you know, back then you didn't have as many school shootings as you have now. Like I said, there's one today in Florida. And there was another school district today that was closed because of a threat. There was another school district that was just closed the other day because of a threat. There are too many issues that are going on in today's schools that if there's another building that can take on that voting polling place, why not move it? Why not protect the kids before the crime happens instead of waiting for, you know, the incident to arise to where you can turn around and, you know, say, oh, we had the opportunity to move it to the fire department where it would have been better, and we didn't, and now we've lost students and faculty over this decision that could have been prevented. So, you know, again, I don't want to waste any more of your time, but
It's a good learning experience. Thank you very
Yes.
much for your time
Thank
and
you.
your passion.
Thank you.
Next up, question. Yes. Oh, we're still on the,
Courtesy of
you
the-
want to come up to the podium, sir?
Good afternoon. Members of the Northampton
Could you
County.
introduce yourself, please?
Yes.
Your name?
My name is Corey Frank. I'm here today as a concerned citizen because after repeatedly asking County Executive McClure to explain the standard by which he vetted his nominees to the Election Commission, yesterday he tweeted only that, quote, the most important criteria we used was hope. Hope that these volunteers would agree to accept the appointment and serve. And while I'm grateful for any citizen who volunteers for civic duty, quite frankly, I find that hope standard to be an unacceptable and irresponsible standard for Executive McClure's nominees to any position, and especially so for the Elections Commission, which enjoys complete independence, as you've already discussed today, and is responsible for ensuring all of our elections are conducted fairly, orderly, and safely for all our citizens, particularly its most vulnerable ones. So because I have no confidence in Executive McClure's methods for selecting the Election Commission nominees, I have no choice but to come here and ask that where County Executive McClure has failed to lead, you will. I'm asking that where County Executive McClure has failed to publicly acknowledge any reasonable questions of these nominees, that you will. Specifically, as a concerned parent and one of more than 1,700 petitioners who've signed petitions to move the voting from Butts Elementary, I'm requesting this board to ask each of Executive McClure's nominees the following 3 questions. Number 1, and I have copies for you if you would like. Given the increasing contentiousness of elections and the increasing prevalence of school shootings and mass shootings, including the one today in Florida, do you agree that voting in schools creates additional risks to the safety of the children? Number 2, at a minimum, do you believe schools should only be used as polling places in the absence of an acceptable alternative location? And number 3, given the citizen outcry to permanently remove voting from Butts Elementary, and given that the fire company has volunteered its space for voting, will you support the 1,700 citizen petitioners and commit to moving voting away from Butts? To me, these are completely reasonable questions to ask of these nominees. Indeed, I believe they are responsible questions for Executive McClure to have asked, given his repeated comments on social media about how he believes voting should be moved from Butts. But since we have no knowledge of him asking these questions to the nominees, I believe it is now necessary for this board to ask them in order to ensure the Elections Commission fully represents the county's commitment to protecting the kids. I wish I didn't have to be here today, but County Executive McClure has given me no reason to take comfort in the soundness or thoroughness of his vetting process. And while I'm hopeful these candidates are exceptional people of the highest moral and ethical character, I wouldn't be doing my part as an engaged citizen, and I don't believe you would be doing your parts as elected leaders if we didn't ensure these nominees were vetted by more than just hope. Otherwise, we're left to wonder whether these selections might have been made perhaps out of personal or party loyalty. And I believe the County of Northampton, the citizens of the County of Northampton, deserve better than that. And I know the children of Butts deserve better than that. And so I ask you, will you please carefully vet these individuals? Will you please ascertain their views about voting in schools? Will you please get them on record as being firmly committed to protecting the kids? And will you do this today, before they are committed and before they become independent of this county? I hope so. Let's do it for the kids. Let's stand up as a county and say for all to hear that this outdated practice of using schools as polling places needs to end.
Thank you. Can I have a copy of one of your
You sure
pieces
may.
of literature?
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Thank you for it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay, thank you. The next is the discussion regarding the appointment of the controller. 3 applications were received by the deadline of January 29th. And the 31st, the members of the Personnel Committee met to review the applications. Mr. Zaborski was the one that everyone kind of decided to move forward for the committee, and that was the recommendation from the council for approval.
Mr. McGee, we had announced, I had announced publicly here that we were going to have this meeting and the meeting to vet the amount of applications that were going to come in, because I thought we'd get like 20 or 30 applications. I had no idea we'd only have 3 people that would be interested in this job. And we had announced it here, and I believe I erred myself in not making sure that it was announced on paper, in the paper, like it's supposed to be. So I'm recommending that we just go over the 3. I mean, I know who everybody recommended and why. We didn't really take a vote. It was just kind of a recommendation because we wanted to pare it down for council so we wouldn't have 10 people standing there and everybody asking questions. And there ended up being a lot less people than I had thought. So in light that it wasn't advertised, I think it could be construed as a illegal or a Sunshine Act or some kind of violation. And, my fault. I'm new. As president, I've been here over there in the corner, but everybody else had to deal with this. So we're not following up and making sure that the staff had published it. I think we should just go over the 3 applications if you want.
Absolutely.
And whatever, you're the chair, but I feel we should do that.
No, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it. So all the council committee people, they all have the resumes in front of them. If you open up your paperwork, you'll find the resume for Mr. Andrew Tupone, Mr. Hayden Phillips, and Mr. Richard Zaborski.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah. Question?
Sure.
Are any of the individuals here and would like to come up and speak? I don't know if that's how you want to proceed.
I was
Or you wanna
thinking,
discuss
Well, I think first?
I think what we want to do is we want to go over these resumes, and we'll do a public opinion on, we'll vote on them in front of everybody, and we'll go over the first one here. We'll look at Mr. Andrew Tupone. All right, and I know we looked at it before, but let's take another look at it again. And what we can do is take a vote. We'll take a vote on Mr. Tupone to move.
May I say something?
Peg has precedence.
Wait, Peg.
I just think that this whole thing should be held for a little bit until it's been published in the paper, till it's been really advertised. I think just an announcement at county council or something, I never even saw any of that it was due. So I just feel the whole thing should be done right. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg.
I'm going to object right now. I have a right to object. My name is Bernie O'Hare. I have a right to object to a perceived violation of the Sunshine Act at any time. And the reason I'm objecting is to point out that before you conduct a vote on who you recommend to the full body of council, that you should open it up to the public so that any member of the public has an opportunity to be heard concerning the 3 names that have been that have the 3 individuals who have put themselves forth as possible controllers, so that any member of the public can speak either for or against any of these individuals. That way the public has an opportunity to be heard. I'm sure Mr. Spadoni will agree that this probably solves any problem with respect to the Sunshine Act.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's my objection.
I appreciate your comment, Mr.
My
O'Hara.
initial caveat is that there is a timeline of 30 days. And I do not have those documents in front of me, but it runs from
tomorrow.
the resignation.
That would have been the first
Tomorrow.
meeting.
If it is not done within 30 days, then it is subject to the following: either a petition by county council members or 5 or some number of registered voters to the court.
Okay.
So I would caution you in that regard to be circumspect, to have that met so that you meet your obligation within the 30 days.
Okay.
May I ask the...
And to Peg's position, I don't know if Peg was here at the meeting. I think she was on phone when I announced how we were going to do it, and there was no objection or anything at that time that I was going to convene a committee to meet and go over these applications, because I didn't want everybody to be vetted in public, and why, somebody's not being chosen, because we were going to put 2 or 3 up for county council to review or review for the personnel board. This meeting has been advertised that we are going to do the county
Tonight, yes.
control. It's been advertised, Peg. It's been in every paper and everything. Everybody knows we're going to do this. So, the committee did have a recommendation for one person, and we can do this and do the same thing. But like Mr. Spadoni says, tomorrow's the day. And, for not having that advertised, I don't believe anything was done maliciously or any kind of other thing to put this council under some kind of spotlight that we're intentionally doing something wrong when we're trying to pick a new controller. So,
If I may, there's been talk of a violation of the Sunshine Law. We sometimes use that as a moniker to discuss things. That is only in reference to official action. There will be no action, at least on my watch, that's intentional, that's anything other than transparent and open and pursuant to the Sunshine Law.
Correct.
So despite what you've heard, there has been no violation, in my opinion. What I am hopeful is that the county circles their responsibilities and obligations and does what the law indicates they must, and that's appoint a controller. And I think the way forward is to do it in an open and transparent method like this. And that being said, any council person can nominate anybody they want outside of the vetting process, outside of the applications. That is a responsibility given to you by the holding of your office. So I want to be clear about that. This is open and transparent, but I am anticipating and hopeful that we meet our obligation within the 30 days.
Okay. Mr. Heckman.
I have two things. One, for the solicitor. It was mentioned about the idea of courtesy of the floor, public being able to speak to this matter. From your perspective, is speaking to this matter when we have our council meeting tomorrow, or speaking to this matter today? In other words, if we're going to have public comment on this tomorrow, is it necessary to allow it today, or what's your take?
My
on that?
opinion would be yes, both.
Okay.
I think
All
it's
right.
appropriate that people that are here to address council in a committee meeting setting or at the council meeting should be heard.
All
No
right.
question.
So we do that prior to...
And my
Yes.
position is the committee, it's been advertised, so, I mean, if anybody or interested parties, they would be here to speak right now. This is the advertised thing to pick a controller. This is the personnel committee for the recommendation to the full body for who we want as a controller. So, I mean, that's already been advertised, and if somebody wanted to speak to the body, they would be here. And they might be here. You might ask if there's anyone who was you ask if anybody wants to speak.
Yep.
Do
Is any...
I still have the floor?
Sure.
I have
Yep,
two-
go ahead, Ron. Mr. Heckman.
Secondly, to what I agree, first of all, with what Mr. Kraft said. I don't think there was any intentional anything, and it's a new council, new officers, so things do sometimes maybe go one way or another. But I do believe in process, and people know it, and they get bored hearing it, and sometimes they get upset with it. But to me, process is as important as policy, and sometimes it's even more important than what we do is how we do it. So I think for this particular matter, any matter, frankly, going forward, we err on the side of caution. I agree with this solicitor that I think enough steps have been taken, and I don't see why the court should come in and somebody can put anybody's name in. They can walk in tomorrow and put their name in. So, I mean, I would say us voting on it is not a problem. I would hope tomorrow, but I would hope that if anybody, we allow people to speak, and if somebody has a different opinion and wants to come forward, now or tomorrow is the time to do it. But I do think you have to, take certain steps. People are going to disagree with what you do, regardless of what you do, but at least they won't necessarily have to be able to, well, they can, but you did what you're supposed to do. Let's put it that way.
Go ahead.
If I could weigh in just for procedural direction, maybe to you, to help
Please.
this process. Sometimes it's helpful to have protocol and procedure where you have maybe the council people speak first, and then ask the public if they would like to be heard on any particular issue. And that gives it a forum so that they know that they will be heard at the proper time. But certainly, council has the right to debate it among themselves as well.
Okay. Would that be committee first, or council, or?
At this meeting, it would be the council people first, and then you should open it to the public. We need to be sure that we're complying with being open and transparent on steroids.
Okay. Would you like one at a time? Like we're moving here? We started with Mr.
If I may, not to be bold, you may ask if there's any comments from council members. If there are, entertain them.
Okay.
When that's done, are there members of the public that would like to speak?
All right. Okay. Well, we just want to move ahead safely here. So is there any comments from the council? Mr. Cusick.
Well, since we're going to do this on steroids, I'll do my best Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens impersonation.
Baseball.
I looked at these 3 resumes. I'm with you. I expected more. I think that from the 3, I don't think we can make a bad decision. Personally, I like to see someone with some experience and knowledge in county government, and clearly that lends me to Hayden Phillips. And then there's a separate issue here I think we need to address in the future. Number 1, you see on the resolution, the salary, $65,000. Now, Mr. Barron recalls when we made this a full-time position. What was that, 10 years ago?
No, it's 2012.
Okay.
2012.
Okay, but the salary has not changed since that time. And I think one of the reasons that we have, or maybe the reason why we only got 3 resumes and why it's difficult to find people to run for this position is because of the salary and the restrictions that we placed on it. Certainly we need to say, well, maybe they should be able to have a part-time job. Maybe that was a mistake that needs to be rectified. You don't think that's
Well,
true?
the district attorneys even weighed on this. Mr. Morganelli questioned whether or not there were people that could maintain a part-time job, such as a referee or an umpiring job with coaching jobs. I think that was already discussed.
All right. Well, anyway, I think that's unclear, and some people may have discouraged some people from applying. The other thing is that I was kind of disappointed to see that in our meeting packet we got a recommendation with a name already in it. In the past, when we've done this, it's been a blank name, and then we've been able to make nominations. So that was a surprise to me, and that's my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cusick.
I concur
Mr.
with
Kraft?
You, I concur with you, Mr. Kuzic. We should look at the controller's salary and everything, because the next person who gets duly elected to that, it can take effect then, but it can't. Nothing can change now. But I mean, we have 19 months to get something done, so we should at least, or before, it has to be before the primary starts, right? Right.
Some people volunteer for things too and give their services away, firemen or.
Well, let's not give the house away, but we should look at it and decide to change that.
My understanding is that it has to be done by the end of this calendar year if you want to raise the salary for next year's election.
Mr. Heckman.
If I'm not mistaken, and I should have, I looked, I don't remember, but from last, I actually was looking at this when Mr. Barron got confirmed. I mean, there aren't a lot of requirements in the home charter for the controller, so there's one thing. And I think it's important to note that I know, when I was in a previous life on council, we had to make some appointments or changes. you can have any reason you want as a councilman why you're picking somebody, why you're not. I mean, I happen to lean towards when you're filling an elected position, are you going to run again? Because we all know that an incumbent has a leg up. Now, I've had people say that's a terrible reason. All right, it's a terrible reason to you, but I'm sitting here. So, I mean, the thing is, any reason a councilman has is, if they think it's good, is a good reason. So, yeah, I just want to sort of concur with what Mr. Kusick said in that, I mean, I'm thankful that the 3 people that applied. I agree. I thought there was going to be more. And maybe it's a salary, maybe it's something else. But, you know, sometimes you get picked and sometimes you don't. I can relate to that.
Mr. Warner.
I'm not on the Personnel Committee, but I will speak to this, okay? First of all, I was disappointed in that there was a meeting and it was held without public notification, which I would agree with, and I very rarely agree with Mr. O'Hare, but I do. And secondly, anytime you have any kind of meeting and you conduct council or county business, you must take notes and it must be publicly announced, okay? So if there was any business that was done and it was not notified, yes, that could be a problem, okay? There were no notes taken. If there were no notes taken, they could be subpoenaed. We could get into that discussion. But the fact is this. The controller position, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to be, I'm in opposition to what you're saying. The controller position is very important. It deals with auditing. Most of these people don't know what auditing is. They don't know what a pay salary survey is. They don't know what annual reporting, putting that together is. And they don't understand fraud and waste reporting either. And so it is an important position, and the people that are being presented this opportunity should be vetted properly about what their backgrounds are, if they've even dealt with government auditing, if they know what GASB 54 is. These are things that come up. Matter of fact, we're going to have a discussion about it today or tomorrow, one of the other days. But the fact is that it is an important position, and I'm actually taking Mr. Barron's position and saying it was a hard job. He did a great job. He did a lot of audits for us. The council has the right to ask for audits. The executive has the right to ask for audits. So this is not to be taken lightly. So that whatever's in those resumes, if they beef them up, the more important thing is, are they qualified?
Well, can I just say something? When did I say it wasn't an important position? I don't even recall ever saying that. Well, I mean, you're out of position to something I never said. I mean, I said every council member has the right to decide in their mind how they want to do it. Of course it's important. That's why I won't probably vote for 1 or 2 people. But that being said, it's your right, as it is my right, and every other council member's right, to make that decision. I didn't write the charter. I think that the whole description of the job is probably a little bit loose. As anybody up here, they really don't need any qualifications to be a member of council. Maybe we should know more than we do. But no, of course it's a serious position, and that's why I took this very seriously when I was reading the resumes.
If you circumvent the charter and you circumvent...
I agree with you on that 100%.
Then it has to be reviewed, okay? And then you walk cautiously.
100% in agreement on that. Absolutely.
Okay. Who next from council would like to comment? Ms. Vargo Hafner.
I'm just breathing before I talk.
That's okay.
So I'm going to come on steroids with a real-world perspective because I'm brand new on council, and the way that we conduct things is a little different than what I would do in the real world. I've had a lot of opportunity to go through resumes in my life, pick candidates, offer candidates up. So I'm really, I guess I'm asking a question, is council's general way of conducting business, taking resumes, taking names, throwing out what we like and what we don't like public process? Is that what we are to do in the future on all matters? Because Peg said we need to do it right. And so to me, is that right? Is that what you've done over all these years before I got here?
I can only
Yes?
speak to what I did when I was on council. And
Just a thumbs up. Or
I mean,
thumbs
you
down
know,
would be good.
but I always would say we should err on the side of even if it's more than you have to do.
Because in the real world, you know, you normally don't do things like that, and then there's
Charter doesn't
laws
always
that
give a lot of
protect those
direction.
people and saying, why did you say that about me? So I don't want to get in trouble with that, you know, in other areas of work. But what I'm saying is I looked at these 3 resumes, and there was one person to me that spoke out with the qualifications better than the other 2, and there was a person I excluded because we made a very strong statement at council meeting before we even started this process. And that was that we wanted someone who was hopefully not going to run for this position in the future. So if we have a candidate who ran for this position in the past, that leads me to believe that they may run for it in the future. And so that would be my reason for not choosing that candidate, and that's me, myself, and I. The other candidate I didn't think was as qualified, and so that left me with the person that I recommend, which is Mr. Zaborski. So that's where I stand on this. But if we're going to go in the future, if you want us to gnash it out in front of people, I'll do that.
Sure. Because there's, we don't. Sometimes some people might not want to hear what we have to say about it.
And that was my intention when I, as the council president, said that the committee will meet and they will vet these. I thought we were going to get 20. I honestly thought we were going to get so many resumes that it would be like, how would we get through all these people? And then you'd recommend whoever to council. The only error was it wasn't advertised. If it was advertised, we wouldn't be having this discussion for 35 minutes now. You know, we'd be doing what we're doing. But since it wasn't, and, you know, I don't think anybody's personal information should be aired in public, you know, especially when they're not going to be considered because of different reasons. But, you know, we can do one at a time and have the vote as the committee. I mean, you're the chair of the committee. You can do whatever you want, but have a vote and recommend to the full council tomorrow night for another 35-minute discussion on how we got here, who we want for the controller, for a vote for the full council. And any person can nominate whomever they want, even if they didn't put a resume in. You're a county council person. You can nominate your neighbor, the dog catcher. You know, that's your prerogative. But you need a second to get that voted on. So, you know, I think we should move forward and move on with the meeting. This meeting was advertised, that this is what the meeting was for. If anybody's not here, I mean, that's it. Here we are.
Will anybody else from the committee then want to say who they support here, or which one they like to see moved forward?
I mean, for better or worse,
because we want to hear from the public.
If I may,
too, next.
I probably actually mirror a lot of what Ms. Vargo said. First of all, two of the resumes I thought stood out more than the third in my mind, and based on factors I've already mentioned, I would lean towards Mr. Zaborski. And let me just say, I appreciate what Ken's saying, Mr. Kraft is saying. The last thing you want to do is embarrass somebody or something, but this is a public office, and people are putting in for it, and I would just say to anybody who wants to put in ever for, you heard about, I always think some of the committee appointments are thankless for citizen boards, and you've heard some concerns. So, but if you're going into whether it's elected office, and this is an elected office, whether you're being appointed or you're running, you better put on your stronger coat, because you open yourself up. And our job is to pick someone, which means we're going to publicly air some of this stuff. They should be aware that that can happen. Maybe if you do decide not to do that as a person, fine. Another councilman say, hey, why did you do this? Or I was here at that year and I didn't see you. You better be prepared for that. So that's all I have to say. But I would lean toward Mr. Zaborski based on what I just mentioned to you.
I reviewed all the resumes, and I also feel the same way. I feel Mr. Zaborski was a little bit more over the top with his qualifications based on his resume. I guess now we'd like to hear from anyone in the audience or in the public that would like to address council on this matter. Okay. Ms. Vargo?
Yeah, she can hear.
Mrs. Ferraro?
I'm not on the committee.
No, I know, but you're here, and we want to hear what you have to say.
You're here, sort of.
No, I'm fine as long as it was done procedurally correct, and I'm fine with Mr. Zaborski.
We don't want to do the wrong thing here at council, and we appreciate everybody's experience keeping us in line, including the folks and everybody here. Thank you. Okay, so is there any of the candidates here in the crowd? Would you like to come up and introduce yourself?
My name is Richard Zaborski. Zaborski. And first, I want to thank everyone for pronouncing my last name correctly. I do not plan to run for this in 2 years. My idea is to fill in so we can have an open election in 2 years, and then you can decide next year what you do about a salary and things like that, but I am not interested in running. Anyone have any questions for me? Please do.
I read your resume, and first of all, thank you for being here today. You're a realtor since 2001, correct? Live in Bethlehem?
Yes.
You said back in 1983 or 85, okay? You were taking you were working in the Holiday Inn Conference Center. Is that correct? And you were working full. You said it was like having a full-time and part-time job combined between being on council and working that job.
Well,
correct?
working in a hotel. Hotel's open 7 days a week.
Yes.
And many times I was manager on duty on the weekend, so I worked right through the weekend. So that was like a full-time and a part-time job all in one.
So you made a decision to give one up or quit both, or?
No, I actually, for city council, I ran for the state house and lost by 500 votes.
Okay,
So that's why I got off the council. I decided to let somebody else do it.
Okay. So you know the job's full-time, correct?
Yes.
So since you have a real estate business, how would you handle that?
Well, I'm doing very little real estate now. I actually took off last year out of real estate to take care of my mother who has Alzheimer's. So I'm doing real estate part-time basically because I'm there, but my real estate is really cut back. I can do that in the evenings and on weekends.
Okay. Most important things were you lived in the area and that you weren't going to work as a part-time controller. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask one last time, make sure we're on a safe path here. Does anybody else have anything else to say regarding this issue? I guess there's also going to be tomorrow night. You'll have another opportunity. Okay. Mr. Solicitor, are you satisfied with the way we handle things?
I would tell you that my review of the Home Rule Charter says that you fill it under Section 105B1 by resolution, and we're going to do that in an open public setting.
And I'd like to make a motion or recommend Mr. Zaborski as a person that we put forward for controller for tomorrow night to the full body.
Okay. All right. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sure. Okay. To move Mr. Zaborski to tomorrow night's meeting. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and the public. Okay. Moving on. We have some county executive appointments and reappointments. We will go through them in order. We have quite a stack here.
Yes, we do. Bill, may I say something before?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ms. Ferraro.
Okay. I have no objections to any of the people who have been nominated for anything. My only concern is with the GPA, for the first time ever, we had a resignation, so we had an unexpired term. There was some question as to how that unexpired, who gets to choose to fill the unexpired term. I and Mr. Lucius, the attorney for the GPA, reached out to the county council solicitor and to the county solicitor, and neither person gave him the courtesy of a callback. Now, be as it may, I really feel I cannot vote on that one position, not because of the person in it, but because of the disrespect that was given to our own attorney. So other than that, I'm fine with everybody.
Does anybody want to comment on Mrs. Ferraro's or respond?
Should we wait till we
I
get there?
received an email from Mr. Lucius that was addressed to me and to County Solicitor Melissa Rudis. It was several pages. I immediately forwarded that to Clerk Zembo. There was a request in there for me to opine in reference to activities and appointments of the General Purpose Authority. I set forth in my memorandum to Clerk Zembo that I found it to be somewhat inappropriate at best that someone would ask me as county solicitor to give a legal opinion for the General Purpose Authority. That being said, I forwarded it to council for their review and direction. So that when we hear that there was no response to Mr. Lucius, I was responding to my principal, county council, for direction and authorization. There was certainly no disrespect for not my next door neighbor, but he lives 2 doors away from me. I certainly respect and appreciate Mr. Lucius. I wouldn't disrespect it. It might cause neighborhood problems.
Okay. Moving on. Number A, Airport Authority Board. Submission for the following for appointment to the Airport Authority Board. Mr. Glenn Reedman. Mr. Reedman is being considered for a 5-year term to begin December 31st, 2017, and to end December 31st, 2022. Motion to move.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Question.
Discussion.
Discussion.
And this would go to our solicitor. I've raised this issue before, and since there's been someone complaining about these 5-year terms, if you look at the county charter, it's section 1102D, I believe, or 1002D. Where?
1002D.
1002D, I believe it was. Authorities, boards, and commissions.
Okay.
Term in office, what does it say?
Would you like me to read it?
Yes.
Term of office. The term of office of a member of an authority, board, or commission shall not exceed 2 years, but a member may be appointed for additional terms of office.
Yeah, and this appointment, I brought this up before, and it seems to have been, ignored. And then I had somebody else complaining about it recently with regard to the GPA. So I guess my question is, how can we make a 5-year appointment if the charter prohibits us from making ones for more than 2 years?
The answer is you can't.
I like that answer.
My question is, how come you approved appointments over the last 15 years of your life for appointments over 5 years? If you can't, how come all of a sudden this is an issue? I mean, every authority and every board has a different time structure to let them rotate.
Absolutely.
So, as you know, I sat there and had that question myself, because I read that more than once. And so, through the years, we were given the explanation that the Municipal Authorities Act and its manner of appointing in terms of office, because it is a state statute, trumps our charter. And it's the Municipal Authorities Act which calls for the terms of office in our appointments. So that's the basis of the authority for doing it.
There was a good reason why you voted yes all these years.
Spend money litigating that issue, let us know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and perhaps maybe the charter should be reviewed.
I think that's a good idea, John.
Well, and in fairness, what John's saying, I mean, since 78, I believe it was 79, that many errors have been found in that charter, to say the least. We won't get into the history of how the charter was even put together and why some things were written and why some things weren't. But needless to say, I always say that law trumps the Municipal Act does trump the charter in certain areas. But I agree, certainly could clarify the charter.
Motion and a second for Mr.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. We got a vote for the to move it.
Yeah, I guess.
Is that yes?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Thank you. So we got some problems to work out with the home rule charter. Thank you for identifying that, Mr. Cusick. Did you just pick up on that today, or was that something you thought?
They did it for our benefit.
Okay.
It's Mr. McClure and I have discussed this on multiple occasions. He's sharp today.
Send us a note on the copy machine or the fax, and off the typewriter that is used in the office, okay?
Yes. Next is letter B. The attached request is appointment to the Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council. The appointment is as follows: Miss Ruth Ann Terrace, and the term will expire January 1st, 2020. Do I have a motion to move this?
Motion.
Question. Motion.
And I'll make
Well, we
this-
should talk about them before we motion to move them. If there's
Okay.
any questions or concerns, or
Certainly.
anybody has a recommendation,
Okay.
just go to motion right away.
Can I make a recommendation?
Sure.
It's my recommendation, and mine alone, is that when I was director, it was almost, we were begging people to come on our advisory boards, and it was hard to find people willing to put their time out and effort. And frankly, unless somebody can show me a rap sheet on somebody, I think anybody that wants to put their time and effort into some of these boards should be thanked very much by us and moved along and voted on.
I took a different approach. I read her resume, and she's very qualified, and I make a recommendation that we move her forward for tomorrow night.
Okay. All right.
I can speak personally. I'm not on the Personnel Committee. I worked with Ann for the last 5 years on the advisory board for Graysdale, the Liaison, and she was superb. And so if you have any misgivings, I would say put them aside. She's excellent.
All right.
Great. Okay. I think that is a second.
I seconded it.
Okay. And a motion
Yeah.
to move?
Yeah, absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Submitting the following individual for council liaison to the Conservation District Board. Conservation District Board. Ms. Tara Sarinsky.
I say if you don't vote on this, you're going to have to deal with Tara. So.
Everybody knows Tara.
Motion to approve.
I make a second on that.
Motion to approve. Second.
People
There's
for
two people.
conservation.
But she's the only liaison.
Oh, and also for reappointment, there is Jeff Kiefer. Kiefer from Bangor, and his resume.
Kiefer.
No, there's no resume. There's a
There's a resume
questionnaire filled out from him. Take a minute to review it.
I make a recommendation that we move both forward for tomorrow night for full council
Second.
review.
Okay. All right. No discussion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved.
There's 5 of these.
Submitting the following individual for appointment to the Election Commission. Appointment of Kathy Fox.
There's 5 of these.
Ms. Fox is being considered for the 2-year term, begin December 31st, 2017, and to end December 31st, 2019. The resume is attached for your review.
You could name all 5.
The next appointment for Election Commission is Ms. Hornick from Easton, Pennsylvania. And also for a 2-year term, December 31st to 2017 to December 31st, 2019. Another appointment, Ms. Deborah Hunter for the Election Commission. She's being considered for a 2-year term, December 31st, 2017, and to end December 31st, 2019.
18.
There is a resume attached for your review. And for a reappointment to the Election Commission, Mary Diggs, Miss Mary Diggs from Bethlehem, is being considered for a 2-year term, December 31st, 2017, December 31st, 2019. And also for reappointment, George Treisner for the same term. And this would be a reappointment.
I would like to, Mary Diggs, I was on the Election Commission as I was chairman. She was on then. I highly recommend Mary. She's always done the right thing and works diligently for it. George Tresner, I know he was on the Election Commission now for 2 years, I think, or 4 possibly. Kathy Fox, Modena Hornick and Debbie Hunter. I know Deborah Hunter personally. I think she'd be a wonderful addition to the election commissions. And I move forward with these 5 for this term to be filled because they're having a meeting pretty
Is
soon.
any of these folks here tonight? Is anybody here tonight from these appointments? Okay. All right, because we were asked to ask them some questions, but they're not here.
Mr.
Yes,
The resolutions will need to reflect that they are 4-year terms.
they're 4-year terms.
Yeah.
Oh, stand corrected. They're 4-year terms. I will.
That's right, it concurs with the executive. I make a motion that we recommend for a 4-year term for the 5. I'll amend my motion.
Okay.
Can I?
And you'll have that fixed for tomorrow,
ask a
right?
With the vote on the amendment.
I just
it
want to
hasn't been-
speak for Kathy Fox. She's a wonderful person, and she's a very committed and dedicated woman. She'd be great on this.
Mr. Heckman?
I'd like us to forward, what we said before was, everybody I thought was accurate, but I think we can forward these questions to the election board and tell them that we had concerned citizen that came and asked these questions, and
Sure.
they can take it from there.
I personally feel that they can do that when they get on the commission. I also feel that we are not here to get a litmus test of whether or not they would move a polling place and how they feel. They're an independent board, and, you know, I mean, they probably have the votes to move it anyhow, but, you know, I mean, to ask them that.
Well, I'm not
to
saying
bear-
hold anything up, I'm
Right.
just saying send this over to the election
To
commission.
change my vote by the way they say that they would
Oh,
move it or
fine.
wouldn't, I mean, that would be, I don't think that would be proper.
And I'm just asking them, once we vote them in, if we
Just
send
as
this.
you have a vote here, they have a vote there.
I'm all for proper.
Okay.
I second.
Any other discussion on these recommendations,
We don't have
Yeah.
appointments?
discussion.
Mr. Kusick?
I would just urge these nominees to work with the public to put the polling places in the safest, most accessible places for each municipality that's done in a way that meets the needs of the community.
Well said, and I agree.
Agreed to.
Okay.
I had a
So,
motion.
okay. Second?
We'll have comment from the public.
Comment from the public, absolutely. Apologize. Comment from the public. Please come up to the podium if you have comment,
Please.
and please be brief.
I just have a question for Mr. Kraft. Sorry.
Like the Cheese Corporation.
Sorry. My apologies.
It's okay.
So by what standard would you feel that we should be setting for these nominees?
These people are all eminently qualified for these positions. Your litmus test of what you want to see and what you want to achieve is not under our, you know, I can't ask them, hey, are you going to do it this way? If you don't, I'm not going to vote for you. I can't do that.
No, but I'm
So, I
I'm
mean,
not
you know,
asking you to do that.
these people are qualified, they're volunteering for the position. I feel, in my heart, they're all going to do the best job that they can. Some of them have been on, some are reappointments that have already been there. You already know who they are, because you've spoken with them. So I think...
I have not.
You have not spoken to the Election Commission? Over
No,
all this time of bringing these petitions and everything in, you didn't?
I haven't. I'm not officially associated with the PTA group. That this has come to light for me, and I've come forward because I'm concerned. But I didn't even know until just before this meeting who the nominees, were for this.
Well, that's generally how it works. We have they nominate, the executive nominates people that he feels best suited, and they come to us, and if we see some egregious thing that they're, have 3 heads and, shot up a school or something, we don't approve them. I mean,
Correct.
you're calling people's integrity and whatever so you want me to ask them
absolutely
questions
I'm
to
not.
fit your mold, and I can't do that. So I can't answer your question.
I'm simply asking you, as the chairman of this council, or the president of this council, what is the standard that you're using? I mean, this is an incredibly important board.
May I just make a point, if I would, is that just by recommending them doesn't mean they're confirmed.
Correct.
That doesn't happen until tomorrow with a formal vote, and hopefully most of these people will be here, and you don't know what will happen then. That's all I can say.
I appreciate your time. It's I wish there was that Mr. Kraft had a better answer. I wish that Mr. McClure had better answers as to how he was going to nominate, how he chose to nominate these people. But we will take this to the board as it continues and wherever it needs to go. But the one thing I will say from earlier was that I do think it's important that the county takes a stand, because while I recognize that it's easy to say the school district should just be the ones to do this, the problem with that is that they're having to react where I believe the county could proactively act.
And I completely disagree with your view. This can be completely fixed in one stroke of a pen, saying we're having in-service days, teacher in-services days that day, and God knows you have too many in-service days already. So you can just swap one around and have an in-service day, take all your energy and all your stride, whatever you've got going on, and take it to the superintendent of the school board who went down this path last time and lost, and tell him, have an in-service day. Get off your hands and have an in-service day like you should. Protect our children.
So
and that's,
correct
there
me
you
if
go.
I'm wrong,
and it's
but
finished.
In that same judgment that you referenced earlier, the county was supposed to move the polling location. That I believe there was an element of that judgment.
I have no idea what that is. Go ahead.
I had the privilege of being the county solicitor that handled that case in 2007 in front of Judge Friedberg. That was not the case. That's a misstatement of the facts.
Well, at least that's not what I've seen in the doc. I mean, I have to go back and review my notes.
I would ask that you do that.
But I just think that the public deserves to know the standard by which these people are being. We had the discussion about the controller just a little bit ago, and I think, frankly, these are very fair questions to be asking of Executive McClure and of the council itself. That I appreciate you taking this seriously, but
Thank you for the question. I'd really like you to go to your superintendent and have him have an in-service day. With this much energy, it'll get done in 2 weeks. You'll
Because I
have it
think
done.
everybody here cares about the children, and it's
Yeah.
all about their safety.
So, I mean,
I hope
I
that's
encourage
the
you to
case.
do that. That, you know, your efforts would be easier on 1 than 5 to get them swayed, or 9 or whatever. I think if you do that with all your energy and all your cameras and everything else and call them out at a meeting, it'll be changing. You'll have an in-service day, and then the whole thing disappears and everybody's
if
happy.
the county or the Elections Commission doesn't act, I'm sure that's something.
I think you should look at both avenues at once. It should be a two-prong deal.
I appreciate your feedback on that.
Yep.
And I'm hopeful that Mr. McClure will accept a meeting at some point. But
We can't tell the independent board what to do. You're asking
no,
the wrong people to change where a polling place is. You just keep doing that. I don't know why you keep coming back to the same, Mr. McClure's no good, the council's no good. It's not us who
I
does
haven't
it.
said that at all.
Well,
You're
you
putting
imply.
words in my mouth.
You imply, I'm sorry.
No, I have not
Any-
implied that either.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Did we say?
Okay, moving on. So, did we, where did we leave off at?
General Purpose Authority.
Okay,
Moving
all right.
forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The next one is the submitting for the following individual for the appointment to the General Purpose Authority. Mr. Paul Anthony of Bethlehem is being considered for a 5-year term to end December 31st, 2022. And his resume is attached. And also Mr. Frank Pittibone from Easton, Pennsylvania, to also be appointed to the General Purpose Authority. And that term ends on December 31st, 2019. That's a 4-year term.
Because it's a completion.
Oh, he's completed it.
It is a 4-year term previously held by Neil Copeland.
So
Got
it's
it.
the same
Okay,
issue.
yeah, all right.
Okay? Gotcha. And his resume is also attached.
Right?
I'd like to make a recommendation for both of these. I mean, Mr. Pinnabone was on the school board for years and had to do with all kind of construction projects in the Easton Area School District. And I know Paul Anthony. He has extensive knowledge and insight into electrical, all kind of construction jobs, be it big or small. And I think they'd be a great fit for the GPA and what their mission is.
Looking at these resumes, they both look qualified. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to recommend that, given what's come up lately, I would hope these two individuals would come to the meeting tomorrow. I mean, I'm ready to move them on, but I think they should show up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anybody from the public? All right. Motion to move?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Next is the appointment for the Jail Advisory Board. Following appointment to the Jail Advisory Board, Jody Ruggiero is being considered for a 2-year term. Question on these 2-year terms. Would this be a 4-year term here?
Jail Advisory Board? It's a 2-year
2,
term.
okay, all right. Okay, 2-year term. To end December 2019.
Yeah, there's several.
So there's
Yep.
1,
Yep.
2, 3, 4 reappointments, 5 reappointments, and 1 new individual.
Yep. Edward Boscola for a 2-year term. Sharon Gatterson, Penargil, 2-year term. Daniel Hood, Bethlehem, 2-year term. Robin Rivera from Northampton, 2-year term. Michelle Santiago, 2-year term, Jail Advisory Board. And that completes the
Mr. McGee, I've worked with every one of these individuals, being the county liaison to the Jail Advisory Board for the last 6 years, and I recommend everybody, and the new appointment, Jody Ruggiero, I highly recommend her. It's great that we're doing this. The reason why there's so many of these, the last executive decided not to reappoint any of them. They were all there just waiting to be reappointed for a long time, so
Okay.
this is long overdue, and I'm glad they stayed. It's It's not fun being in the jail for that meeting.
anyone from the public? Comment? Okay, motion to move.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next is the Lehigh Northampton Transportation Authority Board. We have one. Iris Linares. Linares of Bethlehem. And that is a 5-year term to end March 2nd, 2023. And her resume is attached. Any discussion?
There's only one.
I make a motion.
Anyone from the public? Motion, second, all in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay, and appointment to county liaison to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission Board.
Do you want me to
William
read this
McGee.
since it's you?
We also have Gerald Yob, and his resume is attached.
Yeah.
And Mitch
And
Gilsky.
Mitch McGilsky.
McGilsky.
Thank you. Of Wind Gap. And his resume is attached. He's got a long resume.
I don't know.
Deborah Bodine also you have?
And Deborah Bodine. Her resume is attached. Okay. Any discussion?
Well, I recommend you for some reason, so I'll recommend you. Everybody here, Mr. Yob, I know from being the mayor of
Mayor.
Remusburg for 50 years or whatever he's been. Mitch McGlosky, I mean, I concur with the executive's appointments here, so I make a motion that we move these forward.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, having been the council liaison years ago to this board, it's a lot of time, a lot of subcommittees. So anybody that wants to do it, if you like their resumes, I'd say by all means.
Okay. Anybody from the public? All right. Motion to move.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. I'm honored. Okay, appointment for the Mental Health Early Intervention and Development Programs Advisory Board. Jean Morgano of Nazareth. It's a 3-year term. Her resume is included?
Motion to accept her.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any comment from anybody?
It's probably your most overqualified person ever to take a position.
Awesome.
Like that, okay?
And committed.
And committed, yes.
That's what we need. All in favor? So
Aye.
moved.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Next is appointment for retired employee representative. Submitting following individual, retiree appointment to the Retirement Board, the Honorable Jerry Seifert of Bethlehem, and the term is a 2-year term to end December 31st, 2019. His resume is attached.
And you have the employee representative.
I don't have that one.
And his representative.
Do you need a motion?
Just bear with me here a second. I got paperclip issues. Okay, that's next, right? Okay. That's included in this one. Okay, and also we have Thomas Guth. Thank you, Mr. Heckman. And that is also
Here to
a
serve.
2-year term. Questions?
I have a comment. I've noticed that all the ones that the county appoint in the county boards that aren't run by the state are all 2 years for some reason. So, see how that works? That's probably following the home rule charter, Mr.
I
Chief.
see. Yeah. Good pickup.
That's why they've been 2 all the time. So, and then the other ones are all, different variations. So,
You keep banging that drum, right?
with that, I recommend these 2 nominees for appointment to the authority,
Okay. That's
to the retirement board. I'm sorry.
I second it.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. We have the appointment to the Revenue Appeals Board, Carl Longenbach, and that is a 2-year term, with a resume included. Also to the Revenue Appeals Board is Tom Sedor, with his resume included. And Mr. John Weiss, resume included. Questions, discussions? Motion.
I have a motion.
Motion to move, second? All those in,
Second.
so, thank you, Ms. Hepner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved.
There you go.
He's still got more stuff.
Yes,
Oh,
we
I know.
do. Yes,
Cutting
we
into
do.
my finance stuff.
Okay. We have a solicitor's review of personal requests. Okay, at the request of county solicitor, please consider the following requests for the creation of the clerical technician 3 full-time and elimination of 1 part-time position. Elimination of the following positions: 5 FTE clerical technical technician, 3 part-time, 5 FTE pay grade CS 115, and create the following classification: 1 FTE clerical technician, 3 full-time, 1.0 FTE pay grade of CS 15-1A. Attached, please find a calculation of financial impact of this request. Okay. And questions on the request? Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, I was reading. Would you like to address the committee? Thank you.
Love to. Thank you. Good afternoon. When I came on board the solicitor's office about a month ago, we had 1 full-time paralegal and we had a part-time clerical tech who was still in her probationary period. Before I was even confirmed, she had, the part-time woman had left. So we had a part-time position open. However, in seeing what goes on in that office, we really need a full-time person. As many of you probably know, the right to know requests are like a full-time job. Right now, Attorney Brennan is handling those. Our paralegal Sharon is trying to support him. It's becoming difficult. She supports him. She can't get her other work done. So the part-time person was assisting with the right to knows. But there are also a lot of other duties that the part-time person would be handling as well. There are boxes in the solicitor's office that need to go to archives. All of those boxes need to be examined to make sure the appropriate documents are in there. There is no way I think that my office can operate effectively with a part-time person. It's hard to even find a part-time person to work either a few hours in the morning or a few hours in the afternoon. Most people don't want that position. Right now the paralegal is overloaded, and I'm asking for your support in this request.
My only question is it a high enough salary to get somebody to take the job? We seem to have that problem all the time these days.
I don't know, Mr. Kraft. I hope so. I mean, I think it's reasonable. But she's not the paralegal. Sharon would still be the paralegal and handling the bulk of supporting the solicitors. But we need someone in there to do more of the clerical work, the filing, the answering the phones, greeting people, the archiving, running around, getting the documents for the right to know request, things like that.
I know that's time-sensitive stuff, for sure.
Very time-sensitive.
And you have boxes of it that were left over for you?
Oh, yeah, lots of boxes
figured.
that I would like to get out of there.
Because we had remote solicitors last time. So I make a recommendation we approve this.
Any discussion?
Just one quick point. I believe I did raise this issue during your confirmation, and I want to thank you for addressing it in a timely manner. I guess my question is just a follow-up to what Mr. Kraft said. Do you believe that the addition of this position will enable you to clear up the backlog to move these things ahead?
I think so. I'm hopeful. I hate to come in here even, coming into my position, this really to come in and ask you for money to create a new position. So I don't really want to ask for any more, and I think that we will be able to handle it with a full-time clerical person.
Yeah, because this position, I believe, was discussed last year during the budget hearings, and I think we set it aside, and we wanted to give you the opportunity to determine whether or not it was truly necessary. And I trust your judgment, and I'll support this as well. Thank you.
Thanks for staying ahead of the curve.
Thank you.
Head of the boxes.
Thank you.
Pardon me?
It's right.
Oh, yeah.
Right, which is
That's
huge.
A large driver of the necessity to do this.
Yes.
So I make
Do
a
we
motion.
need to make the motion?
Right,
Yes.
yeah, we have to comply with it. I made a motion to.
Okay.
So then I'll second.
Second, Lori? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. Okay. Personal request, public defender. At the request of the public defender, please consider the following request for the creation of an assistant public defender full-time in lieu of filling the current vacancy for an assistant public defender part-time. Elimination of the position classification of 5 FTE, assistant public defender, part-time, 5 FTE of pay grade RS6. Create the following position classification: 1 FTE, assistant public defender, full-time, 1.0 FTE at a pay grade of CE4. Attached, please find a calculation of the financial impact of this request. Please see attached. And if you'd like to address the board.
Right, so right now we have 2 full-time public defenders. And in fact, the second one was only added in 2013 or 2014. So for many, many years, we've been operating with only 1 full-time public defender. And what I did is I handed out to everyone sort of a rudimentary breakdown of what our office does. And if you look at the bottom here, Northampton County Public Defender's Office in 2017 handled about 2,600 criminal cases, okay? That number does not include all of the duty that I've outlined on this sheet. And you can see, I mean, we've got a lot going on between bail hearings, 3 times a week, criminal court trials, that's a whole term, once a month. Now we've got drug court, we've got mental health court, and that's in addition to the mental health hearings that we've traditionally held on Tuesdays and Thursdays, like the staff goes out to Muhlenberg Hospital, Lehigh Valley Hospital, and those are all required under the Public Defenders Act. So we have to do the things that we're doing. And if you look at that 2,600 number, which represents just criminal cases that we put through the system last year. It does not include all of the duty days. We did that with 15 part-timers, right? So part-timers are really, 20 hours a week or so. We're not talking about 40 hours a week. And we're talking about experienced lawyers who have oftentimes substantial private practices, and they're committing their time to the public defender's office. I would estimate probably more like 30, 35 hours a week. So we did 2,600 cases plus the duty with 15 part-time and 2 full-time public defenders. Lehigh County's number is 5,200. That includes all of their bail hearings, all of their PFA contempt matters, all of their mental health duty, all of that. So we're right about the same, right? We're both third-class cities. We're right about doing about the same caseload, but they did it with 5 part-timers and 15 full-timers, right? So what I'm looking to do is get another full-timer in there who can help, you know, with the duty, some Superior Court appeals that are really sort of time-consuming, and try to offset the cost by not filling the part-time position that we have vacant right now. So we just need a little extra money, I guess, to support the full-time position is what we're looking for. One of the other things that I've done, yeah. Steve can tell you about that.
Sure.
Well, Steve.
I'm sorry. For all these positions, there are substantial savings in the cabinet position salaries, as well as an additional $500,000 in revenue from not having the 911 discount go to Bethlehem this year, which I reported that in one of my last audits as controller, and 4 warehouses came online, which will generate revenue for us in 2018. We weren't sure we were going to get the whole revenue for those. They were not reflected when the budget was approved by County Council. So that's where the money is going to come from. And of course it will come in the form, if these positions are approved, in the form of a budget amendment. There's money in the budget now since it is the beginning of the year, but those will come when we bring the first budget amendment forward to County Council.
And the other thing I wanted to add too is remember that our public defender's office, we've got a lot of really talented, qualified people. We handle about 80% of the criminal cases that come through the docket, right? So, and those numbers come from Judge Zito. He is the criminal administrative law judge, so I rely on those numbers. And if you think about those numbers and consider the fact that the district attorney's office has 18 full-time people and 2 part-time people, right? So there's something, I've just learned this recently, there's something called the American Bar Association 10 Principles of a Public Defense Delivery System. And what they do is they set forth principles that, you know, to try to guide public defenders' offices and how we should operate. And tenet number 8 said there has to be parity between the defense, you know, bar, the defense counsel, and the prosecution with respect to resources. So if you compare the resources that they have to the resources we have and consider that we're already handling 80% of the docket, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for a full-time position, you know, especially if you think back and look back that we've really operated with only 1 full-time public defender for many, many years up until, what, 3 or 4 years ago. So I hope you'll consider this request. Our office does a great job for the indigent clients, and we want to continue to do that. But quite frankly, a full-time public defender is going to take a lot of the burden off these duty days. You know, we're running around all over Northampton County. So someone who's strictly dedicated to handling, for example, mental health hearings, which are held on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, that's my idea. I want to have this person designated to do that, among other things, including handling Superior Court appeals and briefs. It's going to take a lot of the burden off the part-timers and sort of make it, I think, the workload a bit more manageable. So, any questions?
I just like to say I can't believe you're doing it with 15 part-timers and 2 full-timers.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could fix it and have parity, like you said, it would be good. I mean, I can't see the DA's office having all those full-time attorneys putting cases forward, doing everything, and you have to catch up with part-timers. I don't know how you do it. Your staff must be really talented, and I'm just glad you're here.
You know, honestly, Mr. Kraft, I'll tell you that I've worked with, I think I said this when I was being confirmed, you know, the people like Jim Connell who've been doing it for 20, 25 years, and, you know, the other guys who've been there a really long time, are really committed. They do a really good job. No one is getting shortchanged. But I'll also tell you that I've got someone like Jordan Joseph here who runs an excellent office. I could not do it without her. I'll be in front of you, not in the not too distant future, asking for a raise for this girl, because this girl handles this office single-handedly almost. Oh, Anne-Marie, too, and Lizette, they do a great job. But without her, I don't know how the office would run, quite frankly. So we're lucky to have her, too.
Thank you.
Okay? Yes.
Just one comment. I appreciate you coming here and bringing this forward. Certainly, this is a core function of county government, and I intend to support the position. At one time, the ratios were the same. Most of the DAs were part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And under Mr. Morganelli's leadership, he's converted those to mostly full-time.
Yes.
And the Public Defender's Office has not followed suit. And that's no fault of yours. I guess my question, though, has to do with a term here I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
What is Gagnon 1 and 2?
That's a perfectly fair question, yeah. So, under the Public Defenders Act, we're required to represent indigent clients who qualify, right, for probation and parole violations. So a Gagnon goes back to a case, I think it's a United States Supreme Court case, right? So a Gagnon 1 is a probable cause hearing, and those are held on Thursday mornings. So the court decides that there's probable cause to believe that a violation of probation or parole occurred, and if probable cause burden is met, then it's sent to a Friday list in front of the sentencing judge, who then determines if there was a violation, and if there was a violation, what the sentence would be. So when there's the criminal penalties, punishment, imprisonment that associated with the Gagnon 2, not necessarily with the Gagnon 1, although I've seen that happen. So that's what those are. So, and we're required to represent those indigent clients as well.
But thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I move. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I second.
A move from
One and a
Mr.
second.
Heckman, second from Mr. Kraft. As our county continues to grow, right, we've got to stay ahead of the curve.
Yep.
Catch up to the curve.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move it for tomorrow.
Farmland preservation, oh my God.
Okay, request from, at the request, farmland security, farmland preservation, at the request of Maria Benzoni, Farmland Preservation Administrator, please consider the following requests for the creation of a farmland preservation resource specialist, full-time, and an elimination of the position of the farmland preservation technician, full-time. Elimination of the position classified 1.0 FTE, farmland preservation technician, 1.0 FTE, pay grade of RU 20. Create the following position classified 1.0 FTE, farmland preservation technician, 1.0 FTE, pay grade of RU 25. Attached, please find the calculation and financial impact of this request. And would you like to come up and address the board?
It's here. Yeah.
Good evening, Council.
Hi. If you had anything that you wanted to talk about with this request.
The justification is that the position itself is a certified position. It has to have a certification in order to do the conservation planning, monitoring, and inspection that's required under the law, and that's the reason for the request for the upgrade. This is something that we've been requesting for years.
Okay.
Yeah, how many years have you been requesting it?
7.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Just did you request this as part of last year's budget, and was it rejected, or is there a reason why it's coming before us in February rather than December?
It was requested, and it was supposed to be on the November agenda for the Personnel Committee to go through, and it was taken off the agenda.
I didn't take it. Who took it off the
I don't know.
agenda?
Well, I stopped being Personnel Committee, and I think it might have fell through the
County
thing.
executive took it
The
off.
county executive took it off.
Oh, okay.
How does that happen?
Sun just keeps on coming.
So you've needed this position for 7 years.
I have a technician position now, but it's not upgraded to what it should be as the technician, and that's why it's being created as a resource specialist.
And they have to have certain qualifications to do the job, so.
Correct.
Mr. Kusa?
Just one follow-up then. I intend to fully support this position. I don't know why it wasn't included in the budget. Last year, at the end of the budget process, we did amend the farmland preservation to significantly increase your budget for preserving farms. Have you been able to get any word on what the state match will be?
The state match, actually, the meeting to determine that is tomorrow in Harrisburg. So we should have our allocation and state match funds, the amount, by March 1st.
Okay, good to hear.
Ms. Hefner?
Yeah, I just had a question. I think you probably just answered it. The difference between the pay grades is because of the certification?
The difference between the pay grades is that position is remaining in the union, but they're trying to adjust the salary to accommodate the requirements of the position, yes.
Thank you.
Make a motion, we recommend.
Okay.
I'll
Second.
second the go ahead, Lori.
Second?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
And let us know if the
So
executive
moved
tries to
for
take it
tomorrow.
out.
Thank
Let us
you.
know if the executive tries to take it out.
Mr.
Thanks for your due diligence.
Nefarious executives.
Mr. Chairman, before we, I was just wondering if the executive could indulge a quick question. You did fill most of your cabinet, but as of yet, we still haven't heard anything about the sheriff, the director of court services, or the director of corrections. Do you have anything to report on that for us?
I do not, except to say that with respect to corrections, Mr. Buskirk is helping us transition and in such a way that I can be patient with respect to finding a warden and then filling the director of corrections position. So we will get to that. I only have Mr. Buskirk for 6 months, so I promise by the time that he's done, we'll have that filled. Again, the acting sheriff position is good for 6 months. I want to be deliberative in our search. We have not really changed much in the office of sheriff, so we will begin that process very soon. The same with court services. All right, thank you.
Anyone else before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Lori, Ms. Hefner, Mr. Kraft, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Heckman?
There will be a 2-minute break for water, bathrooms, or whatever, your preference, and then I'll start the Finance Committee meeting. I think it'll be fairly short. We can only hope. And do you have anything you want to say, or if anybody has any questions for you?
Well, I just wanted to mention to council that last summer, it is a different council at this point, last summer we upgraded a position for district engineer. We approached council that this would be paid for with an upgrade to our fee schedule. This is that upgrade. As well, we were informed by the state that, of course, our state and federal funding are continually at risk, so that is also a reason for the increase as well, to cover the costs. We also upgraded the fee schedule to include the cost for all services that are provided by the district staff for the Chapter 102 program, which is erosion and sedimentation control, as well as stormwater management with the hiring of the engineer. So the amount of hours that the staff puts in for all services, which include our meetings that are required by the permit, all of our reviews and our correspondence, as well as our inspections and terminating this permit. So this puts the fee schedule more in line with the hours that the staff is dedicating to the program, and also puts us more in line with the neighboring districts.
Anybody have any questions?
Make a motion to recommend to full council.
All right, second? Second. Sure. All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make a motion to move it forward. All right. Then the next thing is the consideration of book donation to the jail. And what you have is the resolution, and at least some things don't change. The county council, one of our powers is to accept gifts. And the resolution's pretty straightforward. I don't know if anybody wants me to read it. I don't know if the solicitor feels I have to. It's a book donation. And the value, it's a donation of 487 hardcover books and 2,515 softcover books from Hooked on Books with an estimated value of $1,100. And we are going to be resolving, if it goes to the council, to authorize the Director of Corrections to accept it on behalf of the county. I don't know if anybody's here from corrections, or if there needs to be. If there is, you're certainly free to come up. If not, any members?
Motion to recommend to full council approval.
Mr. W., you want to? All right. Move seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Review of the Article 13 contracts. All right, let's do two-way communication. Two-way communications. I don't know. I guess we could do them together, but.
No,
Mr. Weaver.
All right. Let's do two-way communications. And Mr. Weaver's here, so why don't you come on up?
Good evening, Council. I'll try to keep this brief for the sake of Valentine's Day and everybody at home.
I'm already in trouble.
That's all right. I got to try to make quick after this. The two-way communication contract, that was applied to the state and funded by the state through the Interconnectivity Fund with the 15% fund for two-way communication services. And basically, they do the internal network of our phone system. They do the network that connects us to the city of Bethlehem and Lehigh County. We need them for that piece in between, so we have somebody responsible all the way through end to end to help us support that emergency service network. It was approved and funded by the state. If you have any other technical questions, I got people that will really put us to sleep. So,
any questions?
Mr. Weaver has been working diligently on this. I've seen him at the COG meetings. I know they're interfacing all over the place, and I will support this.
All right. I not tonight, certainly, but I guess we'll be talking to you in more detail about the whole Bethlehem situation and how that's going somewhere down the road.
Everybody that's, that wants to get briefed on it. There's some great stuff.
I don't know if we'll love it, but I definitely need to talk to you and get up to speed on that. Okay. But how's your father doing?
He's doing well. He's
Good.
Retired and home doing
Tell him I said hello.
I will.
All right. A little off topic, but I have a motion to move it.
Move to recommend to full council.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It is moved. All right. Now we're going to Essential Management Solution, LLC, and that's a separate, so.
Yep. Basically, Essential Management Solutions, they are our consultant that helps us navigate the waters of this consolidation. They prepare reports, do evaluations with us, and actually make application to PEMA for our funding for this consolidation and regional projects. They're funded currently all the way up till February. This renews them for the remainder of the year until December.
Any questions for Mr. Weaver on this contract?
I will. There's only two.
I'll move to recommend to full council tomorrow night.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You're welcome. Anybody have anything else they want to say? Yes.
Just one quick note. We did get our quarterly report for unaudited financials. Last year, we wound up with over $4 million surplus, and by my calculations, that's $500,000. Some of us thought that we might reduce taxes by that much, but that fell through. And the other question I had, we are going to get a new controller, and Mr. Barron is here. Maybe he could talk about his previous position and how that process will go with the new controller's office with the outside auditor.
You can review his resignation again if you'd like.
Just so you were, I guess, you were talking about the interface between the controller's office, the external auditors, and I guess the director of fiscal?
Correct.
Okay. So at this point, RKL is going to be here in March to do a lot of the work. We are, some of the trial balances are already being run and the audit work is being done. We had to bring in Steve Kuchera, who retired, to come back and finish up our fixed assets. It's the first time Bryce Myers, our accountant too, actually was closing the books on his own. We want to make sure we do that correctly. So the executive was kind enough to let us do that to make sure we're accurate. And everything, as far as I know, is going well. We've had to do a lot of work on the reporting of the GPA P3 project. We've been working with their external auditor as well as our external auditor and our internal team. So there's been a lot of that happening right now. And as far as I know, the controller's office is on task. I haven't really talked to them much about it, but their schedule hasn't changed much since 2009, or 2009. So,
Has the initial meeting and planning process begun? I used to be a part of that as council president.
we
What's
have
the
not.
status of that?
RKL is coming to the county later this year.
Why is that?
Because that's just their scheduling. It doesn't affect the process, it's just the way they handle things as opposed to what Clifton Larson Allen did. They do tend to be here, though. When they're here for weeks at a time. Clifton Larson Allen would come for 2 or 3 days, then they disappear for a week, then we'd see them 2 or 3 more days, then they disappear. When RKL comes to the county, they're here. They're in the they camp in the controller's conference room, they do their work, they come into the county where they need to, they have full access to everything, and they're in constant communication with us. So.
And I just had one other question. We were presented on tomorrow night's agenda. There's a modification to an existing ordinance regarding the fund balance. Could you tell us what the genesis of that is?
The genesis of that is that there were some conflicts between the Home Rule Charter, the Administrative Code, and this particular ordinance. The bottom line is we will still be compliant with Gadsby 54. There is one additional Scribner's change that we will need to make before it is read into the... in essence, what is happening is the stabilization fund will still exist. It will be uncommitted at that point based on the definition or recommendation of Gadsby 54. And we will still be compliant with the GFOA standards, Gadsby 54 as well. But it doesn't run afoul. So, example would be moving money was you modified the budget process and the budget amendment process with this ordinance. That clears up that entire process. So now it could be by budget amendment as well as ordinance if need be. And it doesn't bind other councils or future executives as the old ordinance did, which cries afoul of the Administrative Code and Home Rule Charter.
May I just say, I read what was sent, and it's my position, if it's introduced tomorrow night before the public hearing, I'm going to ask, and Mr. Warner serves, and so does Mr. Kusk, myself, I'd have to ask Mr. Zirinsky, I would like them to, for us, if it is introduced, to have a Finance Committee meeting to go into depth on this, because I have some questions on the changes, which I don't want to get into tonight. I don't know if it's introduced tomorrow, there won't be a debate. But I do think there should be a Finance Committee meeting on it before we actually have a public hearing. So I'll talk to you then and see if we can come up with an appropriate time that you can make.
And my apologies, I will not be here tomorrow night, but if you have any other questions, please feel free. I'll reach out and talk to whoever has questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, and I guess call for adjournment. And yeah, we're going to turn it right over to Mr. Warner.
Thank
We're
you.
adjourned. But hey, we gave you some time.
Yeah, I got time. I can't start for 5 minutes.
That's right.
Well, since the crowd is getting anxious, Michael's been sitting back there patiently for 2 hours. I have to give him a lot of kudos.